Less than 2 miles separate Niagara Falls, New York from Niagara Falls, Canada. Yet the distance between the two cities, using virtually any other measurement, is enormous. Downtown Niagara Falls, New York is depressing and depressed, marked by vacant lots, closed attractions, and boarded up stores. Downtown Niagara Falls, Ontario is vibrant and alive, filled with tourists, attractions, development. Niagara Falls, New York, Niagara Falls, Ontario. This is a tale of two cities that share a border, a river, and a wonder. What they do not share, though, is good fortune. This scene, more than any other, symbolizes Niagara Falls, New York today, a tourist welcome and information center with no tourists, no one to welcome them, and no information. It's closed. So too is the Rainbow Center Mall, the Native American Museum, the Turtle, and the Winter Garden. All out of business, all within steps of one of the world's greatest tourist attractions. And just blocks away, things are worse, much worse. The term urban blight could have been created for Niagara Falls, New York. On the other side of the border, a city that's filled with crowds, cranes, and construction. The spectacular skyline on the other side of the border looms over Niagara Falls, New York, like a bigger, better looking, and richer older brother. It is both a tantalizing vision of what could be, and a frustrating symbol of all that has not happened here. The question is why? For some answers, all you have to do is go to the Como restaurant, a Falls landmark since the 1920s.
I just think it was a failure on the part of the politicians to have vision and to see that you need the tourism as much as you need the manufacturing.
You know, when they say they're going to do something, I think they just do it, and it gets done. But here it's got to go through too many people.
Do you think more attractions are needed for the tourists?
There's nothing to do here. Nothing. You can go to the casino. You can go out to dinner. That's about it. There's really nothing around here to do.
It wasn't always this way.
An added thrill for the newlywed William Dinans was their official welcome by Mayor Ernest Hawkins as the 24,000th couple to honeymoon here.
The Falls has always been a lure, not just for brides and grooms, but for daredevils and other death-defying risk-takers, for supermen and beautiful women. They came here from around the country and around the world to see the Falls and to see the sights. And that, combined with a strong industrial base, had the city thriving for decades. But when the petrochemical companies began to move away and the factories started to shut down, the city was caught flat-footed.
When our heavy industry fell on hard times increasingly in the 70s and 80s, as jobs began to go other places in those traditional industries, we didn't have a strong tourism economy to fall back on. And that, I think, as much as anything else, helps to explain the difference that you see today between Niagara Falls, New York and Niagara Falls, Ontario.
And this was the center of tourism and economic development in Niagara Falls, just these few blocks immediately around right where we're standing now.
And today?
It's not.
Ned Perlman grew up in downtown Niagara Falls. Today, he's an attorney and civic leader. What was around here?
Well, you had the movie theaters, you had the Strand, the Cataract, shops, you had department stores, you had Sears, you had Beers.
Perlman says the seeds of downtown's demise were planted 40 years ago on Old Falls Street, the gateway to Niagara Falls.
And during urban renewal, a lot of these buildings were closed down, torn down without a game plan for redevelopment. And I think that was the failings of the people involved in economic development in Niagara Falls in the 60s and the 70s.
Another failing, not reacting to what Niagara Falls, Ontario was doing.
The Canadians made the decision to emphasize tourism at the beginning of the 1970s. I would say when I came onto the city council in the year 2000, we were still making up our mind. You have to plan and you have to invest, and we didn't do that, and the Canadians did.
What would follow from the 1970s through the turn of the century would be a series of mistakes, missteps, and missed opportunities. Call it a lost generation. Millions upon millions of taxpayer dollars wasted. The list is a long and expensive one. The Carborundum Center, which today is vacant except for a food court and souvenir shops on its first floor. The Turtle, the Native American Cultural Center, had financial problems virtually from the time it opened. The Convention Center, which struggled for years before finally closing and becoming the temporary home of the casino. The city-owned Rainbow Center Mall, which has been closed now for 8 years. The Winter Garden, which may be torn down next spring. In addition, in the early 1990s, Benderson Development came to the city with plans to build a mega mall downtown. But the mayor at the time turned Benderson down, saying the city could not afford the project.
I mean, that mall should have been here. That experience right at the bridge, okay, would have been an awesome experience, and it would have driven a lot of people into this downtown area and created a great synergy.
I think what's hurt Niagara Falls is maybe the quality of leadership we've had. You know, well-intended people, but they've often lacked the skills and the experience that's necessary.
In addition, there's been constant turnover in the mayor's office. The city has had 4 successive one-term mayors, meaning there's been no continuity, no consistency, and no long-term planning coming out of City Hall. And the city's previous mayor, Vincenello, was the subject of a very public corruption investigation by the FBI for much of his term, although no charges were ever brought against him. Another problem over the past 10 years, says Senator Chuck Schumer, has been political infighting.
I would say the people who had the power were more interested in fighting with one another than getting things done for the city. And when you'd ask them in those days, what do you want me to do? You'd get 7 different answers, and each one said, I don't like the other guy's answer.
This is a 2 on Your Side special. Niagara Falls, a tale of 2 cities.